I probably get texts daily about where you've been seen, what gig you've been at.
Yeah, it's a random thing. I mean, I don't blend well. It's fair to say the voice doesn't either. So yeah, but you know it's that odd thing. It's like when I first came out, when I got the sack that weekend, which was already planned, by the way. You know, people think sort of, I don't know, you get the sack and your life ends. You know. Yeah. So it's already planned, and me and Stephen Reed went into Nottingham to Rock City. Funny enough, the Clone Roses, as it were, and stuff like that.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, I think I've seen the Clone Roses a few times. Yeah, is that the ones where Manny actually? Did he go around DJing with them?
He has done. Yeah. So we turned up at the door, for example. So this is all in the radar. We'd let it start. We're going to go in late, and it turns out the Clone Roses singer just literally walked up and he went, "All right." I said, all right. He said, I'm the Clone Roses singer. I went, all right. He said, do you want to come backstage? I went, all right. That's it. Simple as that. Photo goes out. And it's like, look how Sean Dyche got over his sacking. And I was like, no, we were already going. You know?
You've got a life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a surreal thing. It's like, you know, that life doesn't end because of what goes on. You know what I mean? I know the warts and all of my industry and what it is. So, yeah, some simple stuff. Saw Morrissey Sunday. It was good. I've seen Liam. I've seen Noel. Been to Leeds. Watched Arctic Monkeys for the first time.
Did they play any of the new stuff?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. A little story for you, just a quick one. So Melvin Ben, who owns it, who I got friendly with a few years ago, very generous fella. I'm on the wings of the stage, walk off the wings of the stage, go behind the stage, and Alex is walking off from the Arctic Monkeys. So he did that weird thing. I went, oh, Alex, good gig, enjoyed it. You know that thing when he walked off and then turned around and sort of came back as if like, are you I think you are. I could see it in his face. Not that I'm mega famous, but I could see him thinking, what the fuck are you doing here? So he came back, shook my hand again, then walked off. So I got a text from Johnny Owens later, who knows Chris McClure, who's his mate, you know, off the first album cover, when he's got the fag in his mouth. And he said, get this. He said, get on this, send this to Sean Dyche. And it's Alex, imagine having a chat with him going, I walked off the stage, there was this geezer standing there, and I thought, is he something to do with the band? And he said, and then I shook his hand, and I walked back and shook his hand, and I walked and thought, it's fucking Sean Dyche. You know, so I was buzzing. I thought, like a little bit of world, you know, my world of fame.
I've made it.
Yeah, because music's more, you know, it's more interesting to me, you know what I mean?
Are we allowed to talk about your TV escapades?
It depends which ones, Paul.
The one you told me about the other day.
Well, before we go down that route, since we've just spoke about the Clone Roses, I remember I DJ'd pre-lockdown in Bowlers in Manchester, which is this big indoor kind of massive hub of a place with different stage rooms. And it was a weekend that was primarily for tribute acts. So I think that over the day I was there, I think 2 different Happy Mondays played, 2 different Oasises. There was a Charlatans, a couple of Stone Roses, but it was quite bizarre because I think there was me and Clint Boone who were the only actual real people actually there, and we were both DJing at separate times. And there was this big holding area in the middle.
Were you checking in the mirror? Were you going, am I really
me? Yeah, is it me? So there was this big kind of dressing room holding area in the middle, but it was quite bizarre because through the day you'd just see a Liam Gallagher walk in, but being Liam Gallagher, but he's not even on the stage pretending to be Liam Gallagher. So you'd think Ken, who's dressed up as Liam Gallagher, would just be a bit more normal backstage. But oh no, there was lots and lots of this going on backstage. And I remember I was staying in this hotel after I'd done my bit, and I went back to the bar in the hotel. And at the time where I thought it's time to go to bed, I'm walking up to the lifts in the hotel, and one of the Liams, I think it was, walked into the hotel with his girlfriend and came straight up to the lift, and he's doing the swagger at the lift. And then he clocks me and goes, all right, Rick. Just total change his whole attitude to everything.
An actual rock star.
Yeah. The real deal stood next to me.
You had how did you get on with you had a little bit of friction with the Gallaghers, didn't you, back in the day?
Yeah, we had our run-ins. I mean, you know, I think very early on, we were almost releasing singles at the same time in the early 94.
Yeah.
So they were coming out with Supersonic and we were coming out with Mark. And just before this, obviously the press were bigging a lot of guitar bands up. obviously they skyrocketed and the enemy decided we were rubbish. But at the time...
Did they?
For a while, yeah, it wasn't great. But, for a time, we were both being written about in real good terms and who's gonna sell more records and stuff. And I think, as exciting as it was, the Gallaghers have always had that we're the best kind of attitude, we're best, and nothing else matters. So there was a bit of animosity, and we'd had a few run-ins in hotels. Alan, our old drummer, we were staying at the Columbia Hotel once, and I think he was staying on the 3rd floor, and there was loads of people in the bar downstairs, but then Liam disappears upstairs. And Alan decided that he hadn't finished talking with him, so Alan went to his hotel room on the 3rd floor and edged round the side of the hotel outside on the ledge because he knew that Liam was staying next door.
Spider-Man styling.
Yeah. So, and then he's knocking on Liam's window. So, I mean, Liam Gallagher, all he needed to do was go up to the window and say, "See you, Alan," and then that's it. We would have needed a new drummer.
Didn't Alan? Obviously, there's tons of Alan stories we could tell, but didn't he go up to Michael Jackson's?
Yes,
their nieces. What was that band called?
So we 3T they were called. So mid-90s, we ended up going and doing this MTV thing in the Swiss mountains. It was like over a weekend, and it was various different style acts. So we were the kind of indie guitar kind of act, and like we would do, we ended up having a few drinks. But yeah, 3T were there, who were Michael Jackson's nephews. 3 of them, like proper dance routine. I think they had backpacks on.
That's it, yeah.
And halfway through the routine, they'd throw the backpacks down onto the floor.
Crazy.
But obviously they had a lot of kind of security around with them. And I think Alan got a little bit drunk and at one point got a candle and rubbed wax all over his face. And then in front of 3T did the moonwalk and went, "Who's this?"
Wow. Wow.
Which I don't think went down very well at the time, but we can all laugh about it now.
We can. Are you mates with you're mates with everyone these days, aren't you?
I don't know about that, but football just opens some doors, you know what I mean? And believe you me, there's loads of opens that I don't get to walk through because life and family and travelling and all that, it does open some great doors. And I think over the years, it's more and more particular with music, the connection with music. I do, as we were just discussing before we started, I do think the 90s really were the most obvious bond where the country was kind of thriving, the music was going amazingly, and that connection with football started being sort of, I suppose it was always there, even back in the day, Georgie Best, renowned for knowing people in music and all that. But it sort of enhanced it. Do you not think it grew massively?
Do you not think
in the early
it came
90s?
out of the back end of the grim Thatcher major era, and then it seemed to I know you've had this exact same experience, but when that Top of the Pops, when the Mondays and the Roses came on, there was just, I know it's a cliche, but there was just this explosion of colour. All the bands were in black, all the bands were just like quite dour,
a bit shoegazy, a bit kind of taking themselves too seriously.
I think the other thing that occurred, because I was 87, I was at Forest, and the change, not just when sort of, the Britpop and the Manchester scene, it was almost like the beginning of it, as you both know, by the way, the beginning of it started with the dance scene. So the dance scene started changing, and acid house started coming and growing, and then it started garage and all these twists and twerks of kind of acid house, really. And that started, then the clubs started coming really popular. Then the culture started changing, and the football lads, the big lads, started getting on the Persian rugs and all that, and started doing all the soft stuff, all the love drugs. No, but they say the police and all that, because obviously over the years, right, you get into management, police tell you stories from back in the day, and they said that had a big part in a cultural shift with football violence and that, because everyone started getting loved up. They all actually wanted to go dancing and partying. So rather than having a row, they're all connecting and all going to these massive raves.
So the hacienda.
Yeah, I was going to say. And then you started on the back of that. Started getting that kind of twist. I mean, I remember being in the hacienda and Happy Mondays by Hallelujah, was playing, and it was just like a love off. It was the most amazing, bizarre.
You seen the
thing.
Rope for Luck video? The Happy Mondays
yeah.
And Sean's off his face and he's in the house.
Well, it's just
club,
and it's
so
just,
cool.
I mean, and that was I used to go to the hacienda before the Guns night. Remember, it went through a bad stage. When it was in its real good stage, the whole atmosphere was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think then the Manchester scene, then the Britpop sort of joined on the back of that, started diversifying, didn't it? And
Well,
then
you had the bands like Primal Scream,
Yeah.
really heavy on that. Can you imagine how like it's just something that I just think must have been the coolest thing to be around, like Bobby G in full leathers and long hair, looking like the
Yeah.
greatest rock star in
Yeah.
a acid house club.
Yeah.
You know, getting
Well,
into that
even
music.
even just pre that with Primal Scream, when they had their second album, which I think was just called Primal Scream, and they
Yeah.
were doing all that Ivy,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was a bit more kind of MC5,
Yeah.
Stoogesy kind
Yeah.
of stuff. That was really cool, but that
Loved
kind of
that.
blended into
Because what was before? It
became-
was Sonic Flower Groove, wasn't
yes,
it?
which
So-
was also equally just as great. in a
football,
really
football was
indie
booming,
way.
wasn't it? You know, the night, you
Yeah.
know, the World Cup and everything, Gaza and
Yeah,
all of that,
totally.
and it started connecting.
Yeah.
And the start of the Premiership, really, as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that was my next bit. You start with Thunder.
I'm
Fair
terribly
play to
sorry.
you. No, once that starts, it really started to kick off, didn't it? You
Yeah.
know, football as the whole, the way Sky presented it, the way it was delivered to the public. The you know, even back then, when you look back, you know now they talk about the camera angles of that, but they were taking it to a new level very
Yeah.
quick, weren't they?
Yeah.
For you guys, I mean, I love music. You lads must have been buzzing off it. Surely.
Well, it was really weird at the time, and I look back now and kind of almost regret not soaking it up more than what we
Right.
perhaps should have
But that's
done,
life,
because
though,
we
eh?
were caught up doing it.
Yeah,
So
that's
to
life,
us, it was
yeah.
our job. So you know, we would do some really cool stuff, but then we're brought back down to earth and told you've got to go there and do that now. So
Yeah.
there's never any time to. My dad always used to say you've got to stop and smell the roses, but we never really had the opportunity until we kind of called it a day for a few years, probably mid-noughties. And it was only then that we thought, wow, what has just happened over
Yeah.
the past 15
That's the
years?
unfortunate side of when you're in it, though, I think. You know,
Yeah.
because when we were playing and I was playing, I mean, I was a bit of a journeyman, but I was playing in the Championship and stuff like that. And you're that busy working and you're playing hard and you're looking
Yeah.
for that next contract. And
Yeah.
you want to make life work. And you've got to be a bit
And thinking
careful.
of the next
you know,
game.
you can't go out
Yeah.
drinking as much as you probably thought you wanted to. And
Yeah.
you got to, you know what I mean? So all them things. And when you're doing it, it is different. There's no two ways about
Yeah.
it. When you reflect on it, it's kind of weirdly more enjoyable.
Well,
You know?
Well,
I've
yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah, totally that. Yeah,
I
it's
bet you have
like,
some
wow.
great fun times now playing your gigs, but reflecting on times.
And feeling fortunate that we're still here doing it
That's
as well. To be
fantastic,
honest,
yeah.
you know, it's quite a mental thing to think that in this day and age we're still here. I mean, we're nearly 50, but we'd still look all right, and we'd weirdly we've
But we were discussing
we've
that
not
earlier
been
before
ravaged.
you came in. That I think you get to a certain age, like we were talking about. Sean went to see Morrissey, obviously, and you get to a certain age, I think, where he was talking about playing the hits and all that kind of stuff. I bet like there are loads of bands in their 30s that just like, oh, I'm sick to death of playing all the hits, and then you get, and it's pretty much why I'm here doing this now. Like you get to an age where you just think, I don't care,
Yeah, just who
and you
gives
look
a
back
toss,
and
yeah,
like when
yeah.
I was doing the Forest podcast with Matt Ford, I had no will or want to do a podcast to talk about football, my career. Barely done anything in football, really. And it's kind of like, you just get to that age where you just think, well, that's who I am. Like that's how I'm remembered, and that's what people want. And then it must be the same for bands. Like, and I've certainly seen your curve where
Well, there
you
is-
do that, and then you've come back up. And like,
Yeah,
say to
massive
Sean, when
peaks
you
and
come to
troughs.
that the Shed Sember sort of, when that idea came about, and then you come out, and it's nothing to do with like, oh, I might play this. You come out and go, you came out and went boom, smashing
I
everybody
think
with the
because
hits. And it's just,
we've realised that in a sense we are quite fortunate that
Yeah.
people are still interested enough to want to come and see that, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So we kind of reformed in 2007 solely because we just missed playing gigs, because that's what we grew up doing. We learned instruments as 14-year-old kids because we wanted to get on a stage and show off. So that wasn't happening anymore. So we kind of thought, right, you know, we're still all quite friendly. We still see each other. Let's just do a couple of gigs for our own benefit. And then, so this is maybe 10 years since our kind of prime time. And, you know, we had to add about bloody 12 gigs and upgrade venues for ticket demand. And we were quite shocked, really. And then when we're going out and playing all of these songs that we were doing mid-90s, and everyone was singing every word, and it was like, wow, you know, what we did actually meant something to people, which
Yeah.
was a shock to us, really.
yeah.
There's a natural maturation of life, though. We all go through it.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young, you do care. You do care what people think. You want to be, not necessarily cool, but you want to be in the right scene or in the right moment. When you
Yeah.
get older, you go, do you know
Yeah,
what?
who
I can
cares?
like what I like.
Yeah,
do
who
you know what I mean?
cares? Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember,
Yeah.
I mean, now, right, so I had two older brothers, so I was like really young listening to music. That's probably where it comes from, you know.
Yeah.
Sex Pistols at a very young age because my brothers were into that. Then the mod scene, you know,
Yeah.
Scar and the specials and that. But you lose your cool. You get what I mean? You lose
Yeah.
that thing.
No,
and you just-
totally. Yeah, when I
you
was
just-
at school, when I was 14, it was indie. If it wasn't indie or guitar
Yeah,
based,
exactly.
I wasn't interested.
Exactly,
And now I look back and think, what a fool. You know what
Do you
I
know
mean?
what I mean?
All of
Yeah,
that,
because
you know.
you're short cut yourself, don't you?
Yeah,
you
totally,
cut out
'cause there's so much good
things
stuff out
going
there.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
The last couple of weeks, I've been trying to get into it and listening to all your back catalogue and stuff and listening to everything. Obviously, I'm really au fait with it all, but like just had it on, and then Spotify has been doing me a favour because the algorithms kicked in. And then all this other stuff has been playing, like stuff I would have dismissed back then, because if it wasn't super indie, if it wasn't you guys or Suede or Oasis or the top or the Verve, the second tier, I just wasn't bothered about. I thought, it's all landfill, it's nonsense, not interested. And then like I'll be there, I'll be driving, or I've been painting in the loft this week, and just having the tunes on, and then like track will come on, like, who's that? That's amazing. I'll go over, it's like Ash. I totally dismissed Ash, wasn't interested. I was like, that's a tune. And
So
I go back
much
and then
good
like,
stuff.
who's this? Senseless Things. Like, who's this?
I do think that is a marvel of music, though. I do think that is a marvel of music.
Yeah.
I really do. Not many other things in life you go back to and just go, oh, wow, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
So talking about Nottingham clubs, what a venue Rock City is. I know Rock City very well.
Yeah, been there loads of times,
And what a great gig that is.
My first ever gig, Spear of Destiny. In Rock
How
City.
weird's that? That is very weird. I was just going to come on to Spear of Destiny because we played Rock City maybe 6 years. We play it every other year when we do our big Christmas tours, and we played it a lot in the 90s. So we have played that gig a lot. And about 6 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, we'd done the sound check and we're just hanging around for the gig to open, and we're in the small dressing room downstairs. And they'd created this book of every act that has ever played at the Nottingham Rock City and the date they played. So, because we're a bit bored and we've got loads of time free, I started just counting to see who's played in that venue the most. And we were kind of up there, but the band that I'd read had played the most was Spear of Destiny.
Right.
So when we went out onto the stage later on, I'm explaining to the crowd,
Yeah.
we're a few gigs behind Spear of Destiny, and then we'll be one of the acts that have played here the most. So ever since then, whenever we play Rock City, the crowd always go, have you beat Spear of Destiny yet? And then weirdly, this year we played a festival, and Spear of Destiny were playing it here. I've never met them before.
Kurt Brandon,
And Kurt Brandon was there backstage, so I went up to Kurt Brandon and just explained that story. And he's laughing, and he went, oh, well, you will beat me in the end because I'll die soon. So, nice.
Yep.
Right, okay, thanks, Kurt. See you later.
Well, I think it was 87 or 88. Stuart Pearce used to get a little group of us together. Stuart loved his gigs and stuff. I remember seeing them and thinking, this is definitely for me.
Yeah.
It's the first gig I'd seen.
First ever?
Yeah, first ever gig. Because when I was young, I was always playing football. You're a young kid. I was from Kettering. Not many bands would go to Kettering at the time. You know what I mean? So I come to Nottingham, young lad, and Piercy was like, you know what he was like? He was like, right, we're getting a group together, group of the lads, anyone want to come? So we're going, yeah, cool. So go out to Rock City, have a few beers, watch them, and I thought, right, this is definitely for me. Definitely for me. And Piercy gets us backstage, meet Kurt. No, but they were legendary at the time, amongst football. Sort of under the radar a little bit, Never Take Me Alive, and Mickey, and all these songs. And so we go back and meet them, you know what I mean? I never forget, do you remember Lee Glover?
I do, yeah.
Lee Glover's a mate
I
of mine. He
was boot boy.
Yeah, well, he was the youngest ever Forest player until a couple of years ago at 16. I'd never forget, his glove's a bit of a card. He's dry glove. And he went to Kurt Brandon, he went, Kurt, that was brilliant. Apart from the fact you didn't play World Service, that's my favourite. And I remember thinking, that glove, that is so you being you. He was like 17, and I'm going, glove, what's that all about?
Ego of young football.
Picking the set apart,
Yeah.
I'm in that book. My first indie band,
Oh, right,
Merc, are
okay.
in that book. So I was quite proud of that.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
But back to Rock City,
band.
it's still a good venue.
It's
great.
I saw Kasabian recently up there, and
Yeah.
I saw Bowie. Saw Bowie at Rock City.
Did you really? Wow. Well,
that's good.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that's
That's a
Yeah.
good
pull.
pull.
Yeah, that's
a good
good.
pull.
My manager at the time,
you.
the guy that managed me called, you remember Andy Copping?
yes, I do. Yes.
So Coppo was looking after me at the time in my pomp at Forest, and then he said, right, come down, we'll look after you for the Bowie gig. And the balcony at Rock City that looks down into the stage, he sectioned off an area, put 2 seats in, crate of beers, and I sat there with my mum.
Oh,
with loads of disgruntled
Nice.
people like, why are they?
Just loads of.
There going, watch, and I sat and watched Bowie do a warm up.
I've just watched his documentary film, actually.
I did as well. What did you think to it?
Very arty.
Yeah.
But
Which one's this? The Ziggy Stardust
Moon Age
thing?
Daydream.
Oh, Moon Age Daydream.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I've not seen that.
it's very
yet.
arty,
Yeah.
I thought. Good. I mean, you've got to be into it, I think, because if not...
I mean, I'm a
you'll probably find it
massive
maybe
Bowie
too
fan.
arty.
I still don't know how I feel about it.
That's
Yeah.
another genius, and you know, there's certain ones out there for different reasons, but he's certainly up there. Prince, another one, you know,
Yeah.
just something about them, what they do,
Oh
how
yeah,
they did
incredible.
it. Yeah,
he had a little wobble in the 80s with Tin Machine, but I think other than that,
Yeah, but admittedly though, doesn't he? He admits it.
Yes, he did. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
he actually, he put his hand up, didn't he? But then on saying that,
How-
maybe
how
in
would you
10
view
years'
that?
time, we'll all love Tin Machine.
How would you? Yeah, how
I
would
don't know.
You, yeah, no, no, but I know. How do you view that as an artist yourself? How does that happen? You know, is it you just sometimes get it not wrong? That's not fair.
Well,
or
I
do you
think-
experience, or you know, you want to look for something new?
Yeah, well, I think Bowie admitted that he took his foot off the pedal and
Right.
and didn't really listen to people around him who perhaps might have steered him in. Or, you know, if you've got people who are close to you who would admit, David, what you're doing. But yeah, I think just the fact you just got that band together and it was a total different style of music, and that can work as well just as much. And then you're classed as being a groundbreaker, aren't you?
I remember there's certain songs as well. You know, I'm sure we've all got them, but I remember "Let's Dance" coming out, which was of course Nile Rodgers. So I've seen Nile Rodgers play it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he
have
tells
you?
the story. Yeah, he tells the story how he wrote it and all that. And I remember that coming out specifically, that and going, "Wow, you know, that is a complete different thing for
and
Bowie
that's
to do."
risky in itself.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
You
He
know.
talks about
real
it in the
difference.
documentary, doesn't he? He talks about the fact that you've got megastars emerging in the 80s, and Bowie's been the king of the underground, for the coolest guy
Yeah, yeah.
forever. And then just kind of goes, oh, like, I'm the biggest pop star on the planet, but they're all earning millions of pounds. So he chased the audience and he chased the money, and he says this in the documentary.
Right, okay.
And it left him hollow. Well, he was playing in front of, I mean, some of the scenes from the documentary, he was
Yeah.
playing at Wembley and like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, it's massive, it's
It looks
enormous.
so cool.
It's unbelievable.
yeah.
Just when he walks out to that gig and he just goes like this,
I know, you just go,
shivers, like just the coolest. But I love that period, like the Berlin trilogy where he was all ice cold, and I love all that.
Yeah, yeah.
But so yeah, he just went massive with it, and he just said, and I lost everything. He said, you know, I got everything that I thought.
See, which is quite sad, really, isn't it? If it can leave you feeling hollow, you know, especially when you've created so much really good stuff.
Yeah.
I thought at the time, he must have realised that, like, instead of this big pop star he always thought he was, he's actually an artist, and he is actually the king of the underground. And then he sort of like dipped back into this sort of, and then
But how
kind
do
of
you
when
keep
he
that
emerged.
rawness though? Because you can. I always imagine certain bands, they almost get overproduced in the end. It's too pure. It's too slick. Do you know what I mean? How
Well,
do you
yeah.
keep that? How do you keep
Yeah.
that?
I always
edge
think
down?
that
he,
edge,
I always
yeah.
think
Yeah.
he,
I think
he
that's
had.
difficult.
I think
Footballers go through it as well, by the way.
they do, yeah.
See, footballers lose their edge. You can see it as a coach or a manager. You can see it on your eyes. You go, they've lost that thing,
Yeah.
that competitive edge of what it is,
Yeah.
and that rawness.
And
Jesse
why do you think
Lingard
that is? Do you
talks
think
about
that's
that, doesn't he?
Being
I
too
think-
comfortable.
It can be.
You
It
know.
can. That's a good one. I mean, you know, the enemy, if you like, of football for young footballers particularly, is too comfortable, too quick.
Yeah.
Not getting paid like you've achieved something without doing anything
right,
is a
yeah,
bad thing.
yeah.
You know, because it's confusing.
Yeah.
And then everyone judging you by that, by the way. You know, you're 20 years old and you're on 40 grand a week. They're going, why ain't he being more sensible? You go, really? 20 on 40 grand a week? Oh, yeah, it would have all been really sensible.
Yeah.
The other thing, what I'd be interested in, just to ask you, I'm sorry, Mac. I'm not
No,
taking
go, I
really-
love
yeah.
it. That's what it's
No,
for.
I know, because I like music and I like to know things about it and what it is, right? Because the other thing is, what you find in football, and Macca, I think you'll know this, the biggest change in football that I've noticed since I started when I was, you know, a kid and, well, went into it professionally when I was 16. I've been it ever since.
Yeah.
A lot of what people forget about football is, you know, some footballers, they're just good at it.
Yeah.
Right, so that they don't love it. They
No.
are just really good at
They're
it.
naturally
so there's a lot of
talented,
footballers,
yeah.
they go, oh, you know, you're obsessed with football. They go, no, I just grew up and I was really good at it.
Yeah.
So surely there's musicians out there who just naturally, I mean, I do think there's got to be a love of sorts.
Yeah.
But when we grew up, or certainly when I loved it. I was like, I need this almost, you know. But there's some players out
I
there
always
now,
knew I wasn't
they're
one of
just
those
good.
because there's football people
Yeah.
that will be watching Montrose versus Fife
Right, so
on a
that's-
Thursday
which
evening.
you weren't really like,
I was
were you?
not in. I,
Yeah.
Right, so
like,
yeah.
you know,
couldn't get away from it quick enough.
Yeah.
only because you remember him for Friday. Remember Tony Loughlin?
Yeah.
He was my coach at Burnley.
Love Loco. He was
Right, so Loco is absolutely full. He will be that guy. He'll come in the morning meeting and start going, you know, I saw East Fife last night, and we'd just look at him absolutely mesmerised, like in a way like you're weird.
Mesmerised.
Yeah, because trust me, that ain't happening from me. I love the job and I love winning and I love how you win, but I don't love the idea of watching every game of football
Yeah.
ever. I watch it to learn for the next game, and I watch
Yeah.
it to learn about what it is. But I don't watch every single.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer to go and watch a band half the time than go
Yeah.
and watch another football match.
Yeah.
But I'm obsessed with what it is to build a team and compete and win. That's the bit that keeps me going. It's not just pure love. But I'm sorry, I digress. I wanted to ask you, so is there people in music who they end up going, I'm just good at it, you know, so they lose a love and they're 10 years in and they're being really successful.
Well,
to be
fair, in music, if you're not really loving it, it's not really fair that you're doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
you know,
that's my point. Footballers are out there, you know, who are doing it and getting paid a lot of money. And I know for a fact they don't love it. They're just doing it because they're just good at it.
Right, okay. So, yeah, in that respect, then, that just becomes their job.
Yeah.
So where's the passion in that? Where's the kind of motivation to try your hardest? You know, I mean, we're the type of band who, we went through a run in the 90s where, as we've already touched upon, it went so quick and we were so busy doing it. So we had our second album was called Maximum High, mid-90s, and we had like 5 top 20 singles off it or something. Yeah. But we were just doing it. We were just consciously just doing it. Nowadays, we're actually in the process of writing a new album, and it's really enjoyable, but still hard work because we want it to sound as best we possibly can, and we wouldn't even consider releasing something that was below standard, because all that does is, you know, it destroys your back catalogue to an extent. You know, so many bands do that, don't they? They come back after so long away, and it's just like, it sounds like you're going through the motions just because you want to earn a pay packet and go out and do your gigs. I think we're the type of band where we wouldn't bother, you know, unless it was up there. And thankfully for us personally, it's working. And we had this album, Instant Pleasures, 2017, that was the first new material in 16 years. Such a good album. Which is kind of unheard of. I mean, remember when the Stone Roses took 5 years between albums and it was a massive deal? 5 years. 16 years for us, thanks very much.
Amazing,
We'll wait till about 2062 before we release the next one. So I can't really speak for others, but for me, I think if you... Well, you know, so many different genres of music and so many different types of people. Yeah. You know, so you could talk about the Guns N' Roses and you could talk about Axl Rose walking out and within 3 songs he's seeing someone taking a photograph of him from the crowd and he's not liking that and he's jumping in the crowd to try and grab the camera off the person that's one of the people who's paying money to see him. Very much so, yes. But then he storms off. So he's left thousands of other people there not getting to see the band that they've come to see and paid money for because he's seen his arse. Yeah. Because one person's taken a picture of him. So it's where's your kind of, you know, your love of what you're doing for a start, but then, you know, the attitude of making sure that you're pleasing your crowd. But then if you get that big, it doesn't really matter anymore.
I think for me, the connection between the two is ego kills everything.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
It kills everything.
I agree. Because you've got to have I believe you've got to have a certain amount of ego, whether it's a pop star, whether it's a rock star, whether it's a footballer.
But when you can't take the piss out of yourself, when you can't laugh at yourself, it's gone, it's over.
Or at least remember you are delivering, right? So if I'm Axl Rose, right, and you're a legend and all that, but you're still delivering. You're still delivering to an audience who are paying a lot of money to come and see you. So you can't lose that humble edge to go, right, come on, we're having it. Do you know what I mean? You can't just start... being such a diva, I don't think.
But people do believe their own hype, don't they? They do. They wake up in the morning, they're told constantly all day how good they are and how important they are, and it does bleed into your psyche in a way, doesn't it?
But that maybe comes down to, I mean, I imagine, I don't know why I imagine if you're that LA world, it's probably more difficult, but there's always someone around you who gives you a little reminder.
You'd think, wouldn't you? You'd like to
I mean, in my world, you know, I do loads of media and all that. My mates back home, I've just went away with. I've known them since I was 5 years old. Trust me, they'll let me know. They'll let me know if they go, by the way, heard you the other day, I imagine they giving it all that. What? And I just go, oh yeah, you know.
See, I think this is such a good point, that, because, and this is why perhaps we're still here discussing stuff and people hopefully will be interested to hear it, because yes, even back in the 90s when we were doing really well, you know, we'd go off, we're from York, and we had the option of moving to the capital and being caught up in stroking Peter Stringfellow's hair in his nightclub and stuff, and just be, you know, we had the option.
Good mixer, wouldn't you, rather than
and all of that. Even we weren't even that interested in that.
Nah.
You know, so we would always go home. You'd go to London, you'd do what you needed to do, be it a month or a day or you know, a week of what you were doing, and we'd get on a train and we'd go back to York.
Yeah.
But then we've got a group of mates from York and family from York who we've grown up with, and they're seeing our life transform into this. And they're interested when we go home. Oh, what did you do? Who did you see? What happened? And we'd explain it, and they'd be, oh, that's brilliant. And then one of these mates is a plumber, and he's going, oh, by the way, I fixed a bog the other day. And it's right back down to earth again. You're back home, you're back where you should be.
Yeah, I was right in that, exactly.
And I think that's probably kind of why we're still here doing it.
No, I think you're right. I think you need a certain amount of them people around you, good people who just, you know, they go, all right, yeah, okay, I'll have a story in that, but get over yourself. You know what I mean?
Totally,
if you get a bit lively, I think
exactly
there is that.
Yeah.
And I think it does. Even more so now because social media and that, you can get you get full of yourself very, very quickly. You know, and you don't mean to necessarily, especially when you're younger. I think as you're older, you do, you know, mature. You can see through it a bit more, can't you? You know, you know, people are being genuine, you know, and they're not. You know that somebody want to know you because of who you are, not what you are, and all of that sort of stuff. When you're younger, it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, you've never been out the game. Like for me, when you come out the game, like people around me almost start laughing at you. It's like, right. How do I write a check? Never been taught that. I found a check for £5,000 in a shoebox 3 years after I finished. Daughter's born. Is like, right, I need a job. Yeah. What do I do? And I was honest. I was saying to my mates, how do I write? What am I going to put on a CV? Footballer, musician. Can I have a job doing the?
But then what would you want to do as well? That's
all I cared about was I've got a daughter there, just been handed to me. Yeah. I'm going to not let you down. I went and drove a van. Right. Loved it. Yeah. Wrote a load of music whilst I was driving.
Well, there you go.
But you've got to be humble enough to do what you got to do.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So, like, if you hear a few sniggers in the canteen, I didn't give a shit. Yeah. Like, you say what you want about me. I'm putting food on the table. That's all I've ever done. That's all I ever will do. And like I got matey with this fellow who was loading the van, and he was really quite quiet and kept himself to himself, and he was into like the Cult and Sisters and all that kind of stuff. And he used to give me some of his old band T-shirts. I used to have a chat with him. It was lovely. It was like, but I didn't care. I'd go and get a job doing it. If I needed to go and get a job, I'll go and get a job.
Yeah, but when you're young, you would have. As you get a bit older, you go, right, I've got to do what I've got to do.
Yeah.
You know,
it's an age thing again, isn't it, really?
Definitely, yeah. You'd have found it much harder, but, you know, you come out, you've been travelling, you're playing your music, you come out and you go, right, okay, there's a reality here. I've got to do what I've got to provide. That's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And funnily enough, talking about children, you nearly made my youngest daughter premature.
I did, yeah.
So you would have owed me a few meals just to stock up. So Paul played in was it the Duchess in York?
It was the Duchess, yeah.
And the bass that was coming off that stage was incredible, and I was there with my quite pregnant wife, and I'm fearful that she was going to pop out right there and then, because it was a throb. It really was a throb.
It was. So we were kind of, my first band, so Ulterior, it was sort of techno noise, but like there were songs there, but it was like I mean, we became that simply because after kind of Oasis and all the indie was happening, I just, then, we're talking about, you know, liking bands now that you used to hate then, and growing up to some extent. The Libertines came out, and I was just I am not having them as the next big great hope, flailing around doing nothing. I wasn't having it. I didn't like it. I didn't like how indie went weedy. I was used to big anthems, and I didn't like it. So we started going to techno clubs. It just felt like how the Stooges must have, you know, watching the Stooges, it felt more punk to me. Like, bang,
but it's like an assault.
It was sonic assault, and I just loved it. And I was getting into bands like Suicide, and like I started liking the noise of the Jesus and Mary chain, the white noise, and the slogan hearing of the Holy Bible era, Manics and stuff. And it's just extremity of music. And just left indie behind and went and did that. So yeah, we were quite extreme. Went up and played in York, the bass like...
So what happened at that gig? Did somebody throw a pint over the mixing console or something?
And it went,
so it
boom, didn't it?
And then all I remember then is you having your Ian Brown moment when Stone Roses did that BBC Two News programme.
Amateurs!
And that was just you on that stage. That's
just kicking off.
Yeah, kicking off big style.
The thing is, though,
McGregor's in my hometown kicking off on stage.
Well, we're going to do, this podcast is going to include a Spotify playlist of everyone, of like bands we've mentioned. So we've got a really great curve at the minute.
Yeah, good mix.
So I'd like to go back to some of your influences as well. Is Anton older than you? Or?
Anton's 4 years older, so he's kind of almost responsible for my life. I like to tell him this sometimes. So obviously, with him being 4 years older, we weren't as close when we were you know, youngish.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we were brothers, you know, but he got really into electronic music. He got massively into your Depeche Modes and your Gary Newmans and your orchestral manoeuvres in the dark and all of this stuff. And because he was my 4 years older brother, I kind of rebelled against that. So that's what got me into wanting to listen to guitar music, because all you'd ever hear from his room was really loud synth music. So for quite a long time, it put me off synth, because it's what my brother liked.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of got into early Primal Scream and the Smiths and the early Soup Dragons. And became...
Underrated band, by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm not a massive fan of the Soup Dragons around the Manchester time when they did the cover of I'm Free by the Rolling Stones. I mean, I was into that at the time because I was caught up in all of that, but pre that, 1987, 1988, when the Soup Dragons were like the Buzzcocks, you know, it was real kind of
I love all those
2.5 minute,
C86
brilliant
bands.
absolutely brilliant.
Amazing bands. One of my favourite bands of all time, the Pooh Sticks.
Pooh Sticks, yeah, great, yeah,
love them.
And
I
the
really
Pastels and all of this.
I would really want Hugh Pooh Stick on this podcast.
Hugh Pooh Stick.
If I get Hugh Pooh Stick on here, I'll be happy.
Well, there you go, Hugh.
Hugh.
Are you listening, Hugh? But yeah, so yeah, I was a real indie kid, a real kind of DIY sound kind of indie kid.
Yeah.
86, 87, 88, and obviously with the Smiths and stuff. But my first ever gig, funnily enough, was the Stone Roses. Because coming from York's got lots of kind of oldie worldy pubs, and you'd get a lot of like local folk acts playing in them, so you'd go and see that. But the first proper named band was, I think I was about 17, I think, and it was Ali Pali, Stone Roses. So that involved tickets plus coach journey there and back through the night. Yeah. And even that, funnily enough, wasn't the best of gigs. They didn't play particularly well, but it was that time and that kind of energy and everyone just knowing they're in the right place at the right time. It was an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah.
The gig was actually almost secondary, really.
Yeah.
And then there was just a long bus journey home, needing several wees.
Yeah.
I remember.
That's my first one, by the way. The roller coaster tour, you remember that?
Oh my God! Yeah, I've just been reading about that. Is that Jesus and Mary Chain?
Blur, Dinosaur
and Blur,
Jr., My Bloody Valentine.
and did they? So Jesus and Mary Chain always headlined, but did the other bands all kind of?
That's right. That was the order.
Flip the order.
Yeah.
I remember when we went to Nebworth to watch Oasis.
Yeah.
The first one, so Scott Gemmell, as in Archie Gemmell's son. If you remember, he didn't drink, Scott, and he drove. Him and his mates were really into the gig scene. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he got
I
to
used to go with them all the time.
Well,
He
right,
came, he came with you, didn't he, to watch us?
Yeah, he got to go. He got to go. No, Alan McGee, well, didn't he? And that's how it came about. I'm sure Scott saw Oasis in front of like 50 people
At the Charlotte in Derby.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it was someone like minuscule gig.
Yeah.
Because Alan McGee sort of said, Scott, listen, I've got this band. I reckon they're going to be decent. You know what I mean? I mean, they're lovely little things. Then they're lovely, lovely little tales.
We used to follow the Verve around quite a bit as well. Me and Scotty. Like I remember seeing the Verve support
Richard
ride.
Ashcroft did Splendor.
He did. That's right.
Yeah, it was good actually. Yeah, good. Enjoyed it.
At Derby, I saw.
When
I
you
saw
say follow them round, you mean in the daytime? In the
cold? Just Asda and that.
Stalker styling.
We're not far off actually. We were just proper fanboys. Obviously,
well, they were cool, weren't they?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
were.
Northern Soul album is just incredible, really, isn't it? It's,
Yeah,
you know, I prefer that to Urban Hymns, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just the guitar sounds on that album are just incredible.
That's off the. It's a bumper sticker.
Right, okay, yeah.
The music
yeah,
saves.
Oh,
Yeah.
that needs taking over.
Oh, come on.
That means re-inking.
Still got
that means
it.
re-inking. Oh.
Well, funny enough, I've got one here. I really wanted like a swallow on my chest, so I got this. I got to put this nice swallow on my chest around about here.
Yeah.
And then realised after he'd done it and it dried that whenever I wore a T-shirt that was kind of a little bit lower here, the beak looked like a penis. So it looked like I had a penis on my chest.
Not
so
positive.
that got covered quite
You don't want
quickly.
penis beak, do you?
like you do. Good job we're not on a podcast.
I mean, we've not even spoken about. So much wanted to talk to you about football and. Craig
let's come
particularly
back
was
and
saying,
do it
you
again."
should speak to Sean about all kinds of stuff anyway, and be here for hours really. But there's only so much time on these cameras, isn't there? And we need to get you to play some songs for us.
Well, there is that
I'm
too,
looking
yeah.
forward to that. That's for sure.
And also, you know, if people have enjoyed this, we can come back and do it again, can't we? And do a part
love
two.
that.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely
Revisit.
love that. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you both so much. Massively
No
appreciate
worries, thanks
it.
for having us, Paul.
Massively,
Pleasure,
thank
mate.
you.
Pleasure.
And see you soon.